The first night Ike spent with his new wife, she slept with her eyes wide open and he thought nothing of it. She murmured something that he couldn't hear properly and smiled in her sleep. At first, he sat up to ask her what she was saying, but at a closer look, he realized she was not blinking. "She's sleeping," he thought to himself, "and talks in her sleep too." The following morning, Ure, his new wife, caught him looking at her as she opened her eyes and asked, "Why are you looking at me like that? Did I snore?" Ike answered, "No, but I didn't know you slept with your eyes open. And you talk in your sleep too." "No, I don't," she replied. Maybe it's because of the new environment. But then she frowned to herself, thinking about the weird and scary dreams she had, but couldn't clearly remember. All she knew is that she was very afraid in her dream. But she kept having that same scary dream for the first month in her marriage. She thought to discuss it with her husband or even his grandmother, who is his only surviving relative, but was afraid the old woman might overreact and pick offense, so she decided to tell her mother. She paid her mother a visit and told her of a scary dream she has had since she got married, but never remembers the details upon waking up. She feared some people might be after her life. Her mother, concerned for her child, promised to consult a native spiritualist on her behalf. But they were both shocked when the spiritualist refused to say anything to them, saying he is not permitted to do so. Instead, he advised Ure to tell her husband's grandmother her ordeal, for she might have some explanation to do. This left Ure more confused because she didn't know how the old lady will feel and wanted very well to be on her good side. That night, she was shocked and more afraid when she woke up in the middle of the compound instead of on the bed she shared with her husband. Ike, on the other hand, had woken up and was looking for his wife, whom he had called several times and got no response from. He was surprised when he looked down the corridor and saw the door open, even when he was sure he had locked the door himself before going to bed. Approaching the door, he was more shocked to find his wife Uri on the floor in the middle of the compound. She was about getting up before he saw her. She looked scared and shocked too. She approached the door in a haste, as if running from something dangerous, and before he could ask her anything, she said in a hard voice, "Don't. Whatever it is you have to ask me, the answer is I don't know." She continued into the room, leaving her husband to lock the door. For the rest of the night, none of them could sleep a wink, each facing the wall on their own side, deep in thought. Ike, a trader in the village market, went to the market to sell his goods as usual. He noticed two old women eyeing him from a corner. At first, he thought nothing of it, but his attention was caught when one of them said to the other, "He married the moon bride." Poor child. He wanted to approach the women and ask them what they mean by that, only for them to hurriedly move away on sensing his approach. Upset, Ike went home, intending to ask his wife some questions. He met his grandmother instead, who said his wife had gone on an errand for her. "Mama, I think my wife needs to tell me something. I will not eat or drink anything until she comes back and explains what being a moon bride means." Looking shocked, his grandmother asked him where he heard such a thing from. So he went ahead to tell the old woman of all the mysteries his wife had brought to their marriage and why he is certain she is hiding something. Aside, the old woman said, "Ah, who could have been this foolish to say something like this to his hearing? I must find out who they are so that they will be punished." She went ahead to tell Ike, her grandchild, to stay calm until his wife comes back so that they will speak to her together. She insisted they treat gently, for Ure is still a new wife and doesn't need to be upset. When Ure came back, Mama, Ike's grandmother, asked them if they sleep with the light on as she always instructs. "We do, but it burns down before midnight," Ure answered. "Then I have these dreams that I can't remember when I wake up, but what I know is that I always feel very scared in them." Mama held Ure's head in her hands and made some powerful incantations, and when she was done, she sprinkled some special water all over the compound, claiming it will keep off evil spirits. She went ahead to tell Ike not to panic, because there is an unclean spirit wanting to harm their family through his wife, but she promised to make some sacrifices to take care of it. All was well again, or so the young couple thought, because that night, Ure did not just smile in her sleep, she laughed and sleepwalked to the middle of the compound. But this time around, Mama was there waiting. She sprinkled her special water on Ure, who jerked up from sleep, panting. She looked around and saw her husband Ike observing them with anger in his eyes. Heartbroken, Ure ran to her mother the following day, weeping and desperately asking for help, because according to her, her husband hates her now and might send her away any moment. Her mother took her back to another native spiritualist who also insisted she confront her husband's grandmother if she wanted any answers. "You are the chosen one," he said, "and chosen ones walk between night and day. That is all I can tell you. Ask the old woman whatever questions brought you here." "Mama is not saying anything," Uri cried. "She insists some evil spirits are after the family and wants to use me as a weapon." The spiritualist laughed out loud on hearing that. "A very clever woman she is. What is her name, if I may ask?" "Mama Ije," Uri answered. Surprised, the old man said, "Ije, wife of the late Emeka, grandmother to Ike." "You know her?" Ure answered. The old man smiled and continued, "A long time ago, when my bones were still strong and my eyes as sharp as that of an owl, I met a young woman whose dance steps moved as if she controlled the wind. I wanted to marry her. She said I was not good enough. She chose Emeka instead, the wealthiest in our time, and seized every opportunity to flaunt it before me. Pity he made her a widow early enough. Go home. I will come to you on Nkwa Market Day," the old man promised. I was so much loved to see her face one last time as I laughed at her over her family producing the moon bride. On Nkwa Day, as promised, the old native spiritualist visited, but Uri found him in a heated argument with Mama behind the building. She tried so hard to hear what they were saying, but they spoke in whispers. Mama was pointing at him angrily, and this time spoke loud enough for Uri to hear. "How dare you meddle? You know the rules of the oath." The two older man and woman continued to argue, and when the old man eventually left, Mama was shocked to see Uri at a corner staring at the whole scenario. Before Uri could gather enough courage to speak, Ike and her husband came out from another corner, looking at his grandmother with a very cold and surprised expression. Mama stammered, My children, don't bother about the old man. He knows nothing about." Before he could speak any further, Ike said coldly, "I heard everything. The oath, the moon bride, the sacrifice, the chosen one, everything, Mama. My son, Mama said in a pleading voice. Angrily, Ike answered. So all this while, you have known why we can't have or live like a normal couple? It has been you all this while? No, Mama screamed. Then explain to me why that old man mentioned every single word I have heard old women whisper around me in the market. Ike argued angrily. Mama covered her face with her hands and wept. You or anyone else are never supposed to know. It's part of the oath. But Ike was not having that explanation. He threatened to confront those old women in the market, or better still, sound the village drum and tell everyone of a life-threatening secret she and her friends are hiding. When Mama decided to speak up, she told a story of how the great ancestor of the village was saved by the spirits of the land. This great ancestor, named Idika, was given a land for his 5 wives and 14 sons. That is how we got to inherit Umuedi kingdom. Everybody knows that story, Ike said impatiently. Yes, Mama answered. But what everyone doesn't know is that the spirits demanded Idika to sacrifice one of his sons to claim the land, which he did. And every 7 years, the sacrifice is renewed. What? Ike was shocked. People are killed? No, the spirit takes them, Mama replied. You see, Idika must have been desperately running from his enemies that he agreed to such an oath with the spirits. My son, Mama continued, your wife is the moon bride because she got married to you. Everything that has been happening with her is just to prepare you and her for the spirit's possession. What, Mama? You want to hand me over to get killed? Ike felt betrayed. No, my son, Mama cried. I am just a vessel, one of the custodians of the oath, a chosen few. The knowledge handed over from generation to generation for the sake of keeping the knowledge and oaths alive. We have no power in whom the spirit chooses. How long have you known? Ike asked coldly. Mama answered tearfully that he had been chosen since he was a boy. According to the old woman's tale, the spirits come for the chosen one on the night of the first full moon of his 1 year in marriage. For at least by then, he must have had a child, and his wife was supposed to be his Leo to the spirits, hence the reason for all her strange behavior and earning the title the Moon Bride. Ike threatened to run away, but Mama cried, insisting there was no running from the spirits, as he dwells in Umuidi village, breathing in the air, walking on the soil, eating Umuidi food, and being a husband to the one the spirits have marked as the Moon Bride. Mama further revealed that it is the constant renewal of the oaths that has kept Umuidi away from perishing. Confused and afraid, Ike ran into the forest and screamed his lungs out in frustration. That night, the 3 occupants of the house could not sleep a wink with the whole revelation going on. No one spoke to each other, nor ate or drank anything. Ike made up his mind not to stand and wait for his life to be taken. He made some plans to run away from the village, but could not take his wife with him, for he feared the spirits might have possessed her completely, because these days he didn't know when his wife was conscious of what she was doing or the things happening around her or not, even before Mama's revelation. Firstly, he stopped eating and drinking at home. His wife and grandmother cried and begged, but he refused to say anything to them, for he feared he might blurt out that he wanted to run away. His wife cried, suggesting they go to the most powerful spiritualist in the neighboring village, but he feared that that one too might be in the favor of Umuidi's spirits. He had heard some rumors in the market of some men whose skin were the color of the sun and whose languages were strange. These men have come from far away, claiming to bring the good news of a God more powerful than every other God ever known to man. Ike thought to himself that if he could reach these men, maybe he could convince them to tell their God to keep him away from the harm of the gods of Umuide village. The day he planned to escape was 3 days after his grandmother's revelation. He packed some water and dry meat and dressed as if he was going for his daily business in the market. But to his greatest surprise, and that of everyone in Umuide, it rained heavily that day, lightning and thunder striking dangerously. This surprised everyone because it is the middle of dry season. The rain was so heavy that it was impossible for anyone to stay outside for more than 5 minutes without being carried away by the wind or flood. And every single corner of the village boundary was overflooded that it was impossible for one to leave or enter the village. This made Ike very afraid, for he wondered if this is a sign to him from the spirits not to run from them. But Ike was not ready to stand and wait for death, so he made another move. This time around, his grandmother was in a corner in their compound, watching him with sorrow in her eyes. She said to him, "Ike, please don't do it. It will not end well." Still, Ike left, but before he could reach 4 compounds away from his own, a heavy dry wind came, shaking trees and spraying leaves. And before he could know it, there was sand in the air everywhere, temporarily blinding everyone whose eyes were open, and this was the fate of Ike. Like everyone around him, he closed his eyes desperately, trying to take out the sand that flew into them. This strange dry wind continued till the whole day and the following morning. At this point, Ike was convinced that the spirits were trying to stop him from leaving the village. Yet, Ike was determined more than ever to run for his life. What's the worst that can happen, he thought. He was still going to die. At that moment, a memory struck him. He remembered when he was much younger, his grandmother had said that some evil men in the village did their evil deeds on Nkwo market days because the spirits are not very active on people days. So Ike wondered if he could successfully make his escape by then. So he planned, gathered more dry meat and some clothes, and got ready to leave the next Nkwo day, which was the next day. On the Nkwo day, before the cock could crow that morning, Ike was up and ready to move. He left through the back door, trying to avoid any questioning eyes. But Mama saw him, and this time she had tears running down her eyes. As Ike walked the track roads in the bush, there were traces of lightning in the sky and some sound of the wind threatening in a distance and around him. It was heavy but bearable. He tried to avoid the sand with his hands over his eyes and barely succeeded. Before he could reach the village boundary hours later, he was weak from being pushed around by the wind and his eyes almost blind with sand, but he made it across the village border and continued walking until Umuide village looked like a shadow up on a hill, plus the wind, which was a far-away echo. Feeling safe, Ike rested, had some refreshment, and continued his journey without looking back. But he promised himself that if he succeeded in his quest, he will come back to Umuide for his family, strong and better, and defeat whatever spirit that wants his life.